Alright, welcome everybody to another Hero RR video, and this video is going to be on my second channel, Hero RR Vlogs, and today I'm going to be doing a little bit of an AMA, as I've mentioned before in one of my videos, that you guys can email me questions at askherorr@gmail.com, and I'll answer them in video format. Okay, so our first question is from... Oh man, real quick guys, I just wanted to let you know, I can't pronounce names. I'm terrible at it. I apologize. Arian Khan. I'm sorry, dude. Anyway, hello. I want to talk about engine reliability between Honda, Suzuki, and Yamaha. 600cc bikes from them and model year 07 to 2010. So I'll be buying my first sports bike, and I know if I want reliability, I should go for Honda, but I don't like the way it looks, LOL. You don't like the way it looks? It's the best looking one. What do you mean you don't like the way... This is a 2008 in your range. You don't like the way this looks? Anyway, alright. R6 really catches my eye. Alright, fair. The R6 is a very nice looking bike. I want to ask, are there any specific things I need to know about the R6, the year I mentioned above, and its engine? Any common issues? Also, is an R6 with 20,000 kilometers fine? How often do R6 get crank issues as compared to other bikes? Thanks a lot for your help in advance. Let's get on the bike and answer that question. First of all, it's okay. I know everybody has their opinion on what a good-looking bike is. Opinions can't be wrong. But yours is. This 600 is a fantastic looking bike. Your opinion's wrong. I'm just kidding. Anyway, alright, the R6. Let's talk about the R6 for a moment here. You're very concerned with reliability. You are similar to me. I'm actually also very concerned with reliability too. It's one of the first things I look at when I'm purchasing a motorcycle. The R6 is a reliable bike. Any Japanese bike, especially built after like 2008, is going to be pretty dang reliable. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. You're going to have to Google the specifics of that bike and see. Luckily for you, I did kind of Google a little bit already, because I did actually read this one beforehand, and it sounds like between 2006 to 2008, the R6 did have cam chain issues, cam chain tensioner issues. Not a big deal though. That's just something to consider. Also, 20,000 kilometers is 12,000 miles, and 12,000 miles is nothing. Like, actually, that might be too low, depending on the bike. You don't really want a bike that's sat a lot, so 12,000 miles that's extremely low. In terms of reliability, the Yamaha, actually I believe Yamaha had a higher score than Honda in some regards. Yamaha made the exact same engine in that R6 for like over a decade. It was the same exact engine, so any kind of reliability issues or any kind of problems have all been well documented online. And as far as I can tell, the R6, a super reliable engine, a super reliable bike, and you should have no problems with it. Now, I will urge you to consider that the R6, that is if you're doing track days or if you're going to be an aggressive street rider, the R6 is fantastic for all of that. But if you're going to be doing what I'm doing right here, just kind of cruising on your sport bike, the R6 is it's the worst bike you can buy, because it is very compromising. Super high seat height, super high clip-ons, super low clip-ons, super high rear sets. It's a very aggressive bike. So just know that before you go into it, that it's an aggressive bike. It's not going to be the most street-friendly bike, but it's a good bike. It's going to be reliable. If you only care about looks and reliability, then get the R6. That's a fantastic bike. But I urge you to go and find a used dealer and sit on all these bikes. Sit on the 600, sit on the R6. You'll know right away at the dealer if it's a bike that you even want to waste your time with or not. So that's my opinion on the R6. Thank you for the question, by the way. I appreciate that. Our next email. Okay, this is from Mason. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Last names are harder than first names. All right. I just got a 2007 VFR and I wanted to ask some of the good mods and where to find them. Okay. Like, I want to lower the bike's front end, but not sure where to buy the kits, and I want to get it tuned somewhere, but every shop I email just leaves me undelivered. And do you recommend the Delcovic full exhaust system? I've yet to see an install video for it, and I already have a slip-on. I just want it even louder. Any suggestions for me? Alright, Mason, let's answer your question. As you know, I am the VFR Whisperer. First off, let's start with the Delcovic exhaust. So, the Delcovic exhaust, first of all, it's a pretty, I should be on the VFR right now for this one. It's a pretty loud exhaust. I can't believe you want louder. You can look at their headers. The reason why people don't use the headers, and nothing against Delcovic, I was actually really happy with the quality of those exhausts, but I've heard online people kind of bash their headers a little bit, and for me it didn't really seem all that important. I heard you don't really get performance gains from them, so I think that headers are kind of a waste of time. You can take the baffles out if you want it to be a little louder. If you want it even louder, you can do headers, but man, like, I don't know, it's a pretty loud exhaust as is. As for lowering the front end, are you too short for the bike? Is that the reason? Because if you're short for the bike, you try a shaved seat first. See what that gets you. Maybe shaving the seat or finding like a lower seat might be all you need. But lowering the front end, like, first of all, if you lower the front, you're gonna have to lower the rear. You can't do just one. And it's going to affect the handling. It's going to affect a lot of things. I really advise against lowering the bike unless you're really short and just you want the bike but you're just too short to ride it. Then go ahead and lower it. I understand. As for how you would go about it, you can actually, I believe, I know on these bikes I can literally just drop the forks and lower them down that way. You don't actually have to buy anything extra, but I'm not sure about the VFR. Might have to double check that. As for where to get it tuned, if you have the Delcovic exhaust, oh, well, you have a 2007, never mind, it's different for your bike, so you can't use my tune. If you have an 03 to an 05, I actually have a tune that my tuner made for me with the Delcovic slip-on exhaust and K&N air filter, and it's a fantastic tune. It smooths out the VTEC. As for you I made a video on the best way to tune a bike not too long ago, and I actually go into detail about whether or not you even need a tune. And yeah, a tune would be nice, but unless your like VTEC transition's really rough, or if the bike's running bad, or if it's running hot or something like that, chances are your tune is fine, especially with just a slip-on. I really wouldn't worry about it. The only reason why I tuned my VFR is because I wanted to smooth it out, because the VTEC transition was tough and the low RPM was a little bit jagged. So that's kind of the reason why I did that. So anyway, that will be the VFR question. Now let's go ahead and answer our third question. This is from Ian Carter. Ah, nice name. Why do you use NoCut frame sliders? I've heard they have the potential to break the engine case, and I'd figure that's something to be concerned about. Hope to see you on the track someday. Actually, oh, look at that. Hey, you know what? Did I see you at K&N? Maybe not. I saw a 600 gray primer look like that. Yes, I have, as you guys see, I have the Shogun NoCut frame sliders. You know, alright. I'm gonna talk about frame sliders, and I'm actually pretty passionate about this topic, but let's do it while moving, because it's pretty boring to sit here. Frame sliders. What's gonna happen with NoCut frame sliders, more than often than not, is that if you have cut frame sliders that go directly into the frame, that are a direct thing, those will protect your bike the most, unless you get into a really bad accident. Then it's gonna bend your frame. In fact, most of the time, frame sliders will cause more damage than good to your bike. Frame sliders are really only good for standing drops. Now, they will help on a nice flat surface with no potholes or anything like that. And as if you are just moving the bike around the garage, drop the bike, frame sliders will absolutely help save your fairings. But if you crash on the road, the frame sliders are almost always going to make it worse. The bikes are designed to slide, and if you have a peg basically sticking out, it can catch on uneven ground surfaces, it can catch on just about anything, and what happens is your bike's sliding, the peg is sticking into the ground, it's getting grounded down, it goes over a pothole, the frame slider goes into the pothole, catches the pothole, and the momentum of the bike will actually flip, and it turns your low side into a high side. So what happens with no-cut frame sliders more often than not is that if you're going at a speed and you crash your bike, chances are they're going to just snap right off and break and not do anything. If you have cut frame sliders that go directly to your frame that won't break, basically they're going to grind down, and yes, they will protect your fairings longer than no-cut frame sliders will, but the opportunity for them to catch on the uneven surface and flip your bike over is much greater. So in my opinion, I would rather have the no-cuts because they'll protect my bike in the event of a standing drop, which is way more likely to happen. And if I actually crash my bike hard, then I'm gonna probably be replacing it anyway. I mean, every bike's different depending on where the no-cuts mount, so you gotta keep that in mind. If you really want the best way to protect your bike, you got to get case covers. Case covers, they won't really protect too much, but they'll allow your bike to slide while protecting your cases and probably some of your fairings. Every bike's different though, do some research. I also don't like cut frame sliders because you're putting a hole in your fairing, and it's like, isn't the whole purpose to protect your fairings? Because frame sliders don't protect your frame. If anything, they'll cause more damage to your frame, I would argue. But no-cut frame sliders, like, I mean, with cut frame sliders, if you cut into your fairing, like, you just cut a hole in it. Like, I know with the RC51, the fairings on those bikes are getting more and more expensive. And I'll tell you right now, if somebody's selling them on the page and it has a hole in it for a frame slider, the price of them goes down astronomically. I'm talking almost half what it would be if it did not have that hole. So you are devaluing the fairings by putting a big hole in them. I don't like cut frame sliders. I don't like cutting my fairings. If I have to cut my fairings, I'm not going to do it. Unless they're Chinese fairings, then maybe you can make an argument for that. But I think that for the ease of installation, they're also, yeah, for ease of installation, I think no-cut frame sliders are the way to go. All right, and this email was from Alex Gaines, and he asked, can you give me more details on the trailer, tow vehicle setup? My friend and I are going to the track, our bikes this summer, likely at Canaan, since I've spent countless days there in cars and are trying to figure out a good trailer solution. And then he asked me about my pit bull setup, and I'm just going to quickly go over that. If you haven't seen it already, I made a track video that kind of goes into more detail about how my trailer's set up. I got a 7x12 Belmont fully aluminum utility trailer that me and my buddy Matt put Pitbull TRS system in, and now the floor of that trailer was really thin, I think like 1/4 inch aluminum, so I didn't really trust that. So we mounted those boards to the trailer. They are on top of the trailer for now, but we are going to put them underneath. The TRS is expensive, guys. I mean, you're talking $300, so it's an investment, okay? But in terms of having your bike, like the easiest way to load it up and do all of that, it's so worth it. And you can always buy new pins, so if you get a new bike, you can keep most of the system and just buy a new pin for like $100, and then they'll work with your new bike. Or if you have multiple bikes, you can get multiple pins, whatever. But that's kind of where I'm at. The TRS is the way to go. It's the safest way to transport a bike. It absolutely is. It's the safest way. I would rather have one TRS than have 10 straps all over the bike, because straps are going to do damage to your bike. Even if you strap it the right way, it can damage your grips, it can damage your bars. You guys saw I destroyed my 600 because the strap caught, and that was partly my fault. But regardless, like, that kind of sucked. And you're gonna put pressure on your forks, all of that. I'm not a fan of straps anymore. I think the best way, like, they work in a pinch. If you're gonna go and do one track day a year, then okay, straps are fine. But for me, I mean, I don't even know if I'm gonna do that many track days, but I wanna just have the option, because I know it's something I'm gonna keep for a while. And the cool thing about the TRS is if I do eventually get a smaller trailer, then I could swap it over. It won't be a big deal. And it was pretty easy to install the TRS. It wasn't too bad. It's literally just 4 bolts. And now I have a question for you guys. And my question for you guys is, I'm thinking about doing a rear sets for my 600. I'm kind of thinking about it. I'm not sure. But I'm curious what kind you guys would recommend. I like the Woodcraft ones. The guy who started Woodcraft is a local person, so I like supporting that. I have weird legs. I kind of like when they're squished. So if I can put, like, maybe raise the peg like 2 inches. I know that's a lot. 2 inches is a lot. If I can raise it up that high, though, I think it'd put my foot in the perfect position. If there's any version that supports the rear brake light and all that stuff, the quick shifter, I don't want to like get rid of anything that my bike has. I don't want it to splice wiring if I don't have to. Basically, the most plug-and-play solution I can find would be the way to go. All right, guys. Well, those are the questions. If you have any questions for me, I'm going to try to do this often as I can, maybe once a week or something. Go ahead and email me, askherorr@gmail.com. It doesn't have to be motorcycle related. If you have questions about cars, if you have questions about life, whatever it is, this is my second channel. We're not super strict here. It could be about anything. Of course, motorcycles is probably the best thing to ask me, but I'll answer whatever I can. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Have a good one. Take care, and bye-bye.
Sick news for your little arrows out. Let me live my life, the one I'd better lead. All the plans of fantasies, and we looked at them 11 ways. You said, look at me, I looked away, and you wrote the song I wanna play. Alright.